Hi guys, in this video we'll be going over doing quick figure sketches with the rhythm map method by Reilly. I have a previous video on this that goes into more details if anyone is interested. Example 1. Start with a ellipse for the head and a triangle shape for the neck. Make an angle for the shoulder lines. From the pit of the neck, find the angle to the end of the torso. It's just a guess. Do a quick head count. Looks like 3.5 heads, slightly more than 3 heads. And from this point on, we can use the rhythm map to fill out the torso. Use simple lines of straights, curves, and S-curves. That way we don't get bogged down by details. Make the gestures of your limbs as ridiculously long as possible. Really get your arms into the motion if you can. And use further angle estimates to establish the position of the knees. And the gesture is done technically. We can create a separate layer to refine the gesture a little bit more. Make sure you lower the opacity of this initial sketch phase. In the refinement stage, we start with cleaning up the head. And in this reference, note that the far breast has set below the horizon of the rib cage, and make sure that the overlap reflects it. Use simple lines to indicate the arms and legs, and find ways to simplify the hand shape instead of drawing individual fingers. Start with a ellipse for the head and a triangle shape for the neck. Do a quick head count to find the end of the torso at the pelvis bone. Looks like it's pretty close to your forehead and straight down exactly. And from this point on, we can use the rhythm map to fill out the torso. Swing those gesture lines off the page, work some anger into it. And the gesture is done. In the refinement stage, we start with cleaning up the head, and in this reference, note that we're looking up at the model. Use a wrapping line to indicate the perspective of us looking up at her. Humans are basically all curves. It's easy to get carried away by estimating everything with curves and end up with a Michelin Man. As a design exercise, try to inject straights into your drawing where opportunity arises. This will benefit the drawing with more structure and also by contrast, accentuate the curves and softness in other areas. We could often find these straights closer to bony structures and limbs or places where muscles are stretched. Start with a ellipse for the head. Sketch in the shoulder angle. Find the angle to the end of the torso. It's just a guess. Do a quick head count. Looks like 3 heads. And from this point on, we can use the rhythm map to fill out the torso. What I love about this pose is that there are a lot of cool rhythms that relate the limbs to each other, limbs to torso, torso to limbs. This never-ending flow throughout the whole figure. In the refinement stage, keep using plumb lines to make sure everything is kind of aligned vertically. Just get it close enough. There's nothing wrong with making very drastic corrections when you're laying on a different layer if you see it. Start with a ellipse for the head. Make an angle for the shoulder lines. From the pit of the neck, find the angle to the end of the torso. Do a quick head count. Looks like slightly more than 3 heads. In this example, I went a bit looser on the first pass with the gesture, which could be dangerous if you're still practicing trying to get nice clean lines. It's something that's worth trying every once in a while to see if the chaos would allow you to stumble upon some shapes or lines that you don't usually use. In this cleanup, I try to reduce the number of straight lines and instead rely mostly on curves. The trick to doing this is to make sure that when you're drawing a curve in opposition to another, they flow into each other asymmetrically instead of matching, which create a standstill in the forms. A second little trick is to sneak in bits of straights or to flatten out the ends of your S-curves. I find that without using any straights, the overall figure is much more lyrical, although somewhat less statuesque and has less strength to it. In this example, I want to warn against not so much the practice of drawing indecisive and messy lines, but to point out that as you're practicing, learning to keep your head cool and make clean decisions will force you to be more present and be more effective in your learning. In the drawing phase, note that this pose exposes us to various degrees of foreshortening. The right knee is coming towards us with a slight foreshortening. The right arm is slightly less foreshortened, pointing away from us, and the left arm is slightly more foreshortened, pointing almost 45 degrees from us. It's a good opportunity to practice your cylindrical perspective lines and see if you can create differentiation between the three. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you guys would like to see more of these or if you could recommend subjects for me to tackle. Now go draw a million drawings.